The moment Blake the Fierce introduces himself, Logan immediately recognizes him. His mind flashes back to his past life as a mercenary and the brutal war against the Empire. He remembers Blake becoming the first superhuman to break through Grandia's borders, risking his life to kill Grandia's strongest superhumans. After its main fighting force falls, Grandia collapses. Returning to the present, Logan can hardly believe that someone powerful enough to destroy a nation is assigned to escort guests. He politely apologizes and says such protection is unnecessary, but Blake respectfully insists that he only wants to guarantee the Emperor's guests' safety and asks the Count of McLain to reconsider. Logan is shocked that such a legendary warrior is bowing to him. Before he can answer, Sir Luther steps forward and bluntly says he is already Logan's escort, so another guard is pointless. Blake smirks and mocks Luther, saying that in a small kingdom, having a large body alone seems enough to earn command. Luther is stunned, but Blake continues, staring into his eyes and telling him to know his place and leave, calling him nothing more than a bulky fool. Furious, Luther releases his aura as the two powerhouses glare at each other, ready to fight. Panicking, Dimitri begs Logan to stop Luther, warning that Blake is an Imperial general far beyond what a superhuman from a small nation can handle. Logan steps in and calls Blake's name, gaining his attention. He proposes that if Blake defeats Luther, he will gladly accept him as his escort. Secretly, Logan thinks this is the perfect chance to witness an Imperial superhuman strength. He also guarantees that even if an accident happens, it will not create a diplomatic problem between their nations. Blake smiles widely, happily accepts the challenge, draws his sword, and tells Luther he will show him how vast the world outside his tiny kingdom really is. Luther grips his giant hammer and growls that they will soon see who teaches whom. Dimitri cannot believe this is happening, especially at his estate. Moments later, their clash shakes the residence so violently that its tower seems ready to collapse. The two superhumans fight at unbelievable speed, but from the first exchange, Luther struggles against Blake's overwhelming strength. Dimitri hides behind Logan, curling into a ball to avoid the shockwaves. Logan watches in disbelief as Luther is steadily pushed back. During the battle, Luther realizes Blake fights much like Wiccan, though Wiccan possesses greater raw strength. Angry, Luther swings his huge hammer and calls Blake a little rat, but Blake easily avoids the attack. In an instant, Blake appears behind Luther, ready to finish him. Luther barely dodges and realizes Blake is far faster than Wiccan. Logan remembers Felix teaching him that many methods exist to control distance in battle, but unmatched speed is among the deadliest because the fastest fighter usually controls every fight. Watching the battle, Logan concludes Blake specializes in speed. Meanwhile, Dimitri cries over his ruined garden. Luther curses Blake and attacks again, but Blake dodges effortlessly and launches a deadly counterattack. A massive explosion covers the battlefield. Victor and the knights are left speechless. When the dust clears, they see Logan standing calmly between the two superhumans. He has blocked the attack and quietly tells Blake that the fight is over. Blake is astonished because Logan perfectly protects Luther despite not being a superhuman. Luther apologizes in shame, but Logan tells him it is not his fault since Blake's speed makes him a terrible opponent. Impressed, Blake says Logan truly deserves the Emperor's praise, surprising Logan. Blake declares himself the winner and asks if he may now escort them to the Imperial capital. Logan agrees with a smile, but inside he worries. His memories tell him Blake is actually among the weaker Imperial superhumans. If someone this terrifying is considered weak, Logan realizes brute force alone can never defeat the Empire. Logan then asks Blake for one favor. Blake allows him to speak freely, and Logan simply asks for information. 2 days later, a depressed Dimitri stands before his ruined estate. He sadly says Logan is leaving too soon and begs him to visit again. Logan forces a smile, thanks the mayor, and says he enjoys his stay while secretly hoping to leave before Dimitri asks him to pay for the damage. Before he escapes, Dimitri grabs his hand, bows deeply, and desperately asks Logan to remember him. Logan sighs, realizing Dimitri still hopes he will become an Imperial citizen. After the awkward farewell, Blake tells Logan it is time to leave and points toward the waiting carriage. Logan climbs inside while Blake sits near the entrance. During the journey, Blake asks whether Logan knows why the Emperor summons him. Logan guesses it is because of his strategies during the Civil War, but Blake immediately dismisses the idea. He explains that, as far as he knows, the Emperor never acts out of gratitude. When Logan asks why, Blake apologizes before revealing that the Emperor only values superhumans. Even if Logan is the kingdom's greatest hero, he means nothing without superhuman power. Logan is deeply shaken. He cannot understand why such a ruler personally summons him. He wonders if it is because of his repeating crossbow or because the Emperor somehow sees hidden superhuman potential within him. The mystery leaves Logan uneasy as he questions what kind of ruthless monster the Emperor truly is. Elsewhere, inside a huge hall, four savage dogs violently tear apart a giant bull. A servant nervously reports to the Emperor that the fighting dogs have won completely. The Emperor smiles darkly and praises their strength. The servant proudly adds that they are the strongest breeds on the continent. Repeating the words, the strongest breeds, the Emperor coldly asks which of the four is truly the strongest. The servant cannot answer. Without hesitation, the Emperor orders the dogs to fight each other in a pit, declaring that only a bloodbath can reveal the strongest because only one will survive. Later, Blake commands his soldiers to present arms, and the entire legion instantly stands at attention with perfect discipline. He introduces them as the East Third Corps. Logan is amazed by the sight. Blake laughs, saying he never expects Logan's favor to be merely observing his troops, and remarks that young heroes think differently. Logan humbly replies that he simply wants to learn how to improve his own territory, though inwardly he is alarmed. Blake commands over 1,000 knights, and Logan estimates the Third Corps has at least 25,000 soldiers. This single corps rivals Valtermine's entire army, and it is only one of the Empire's 8 corps. Trying to gather more information, Logan casually asks what weapons the soldiers use, and whether they use crossbows. Blake looks confused and asks why they would use such inefficient weapons. Logan laughs it off as a joke, but inside he feels greatly relieved because the Empire does not possess repeating crossbows like his own forces. During the month-long journey to Assyria, Logan organizes everything he learns and has Philip's network verify the information. As he reads the reports in the carriage, he realizes all his conclusions are correct. Philip fills in the remaining blanks, and Logan thinks Philip is doing an excellent job building connections inside the Empire. Suddenly, Blake announces that they have arrived. Everyone steps out of the carriage and is amazed by the bright, beautiful view surrounding Assyria. While the others admire the scenery, Logan knows there is more behind it. Blake smirks and tells Logan that if he is already impressed, then he will be even more surprised because the city has far greater sights inside. As they walk through the streets, Logan quickly realizes the people of the Empire are on a completely different level. He suddenly stops in front of a statue of a man on horseback. The sight brings back a clear memory from his past life as a mercenary. Looking at the ground, he remembers the cruel past. This exact place used to be the hidden base of the Grandia Liberation Front. Holding this secret knowledge, Logan realizes the current timeline is much better than his previous life. The Civil War ends successfully, and his faction is far stronger than before. Even so, anxiety still fills him. Victor walks over, brings him back to reality, and asks what he is thinking about. Logan smiles reassuringly and says he is only thinking about everything they have seen since entering the Empire. He then asks Victor how he feels. Victor admits he is completely overwhelmed. The buildings are enormous, merchants sell strange items he has never heard of, and the size of the armies and the number of superhumans are frightening. He says the Empire is full of incredibly powerful people and sadly admits he does not know if he can ever become that strong. Logan is speechless. He suddenly realizes Victor has been unusually quiet because this insecurity has been troubling him all along. Logan comforts him, explaining that in ancient times the population is much smaller, so force users are extremely rare. Victor asks if that is true. Logan taps Victor's chest and says knights from those days cannot even wear their own armor without help. He asks Victor to imagine how ordinary people feel when looking at force users, saying it is the same feeling they now have toward aura users. Victor starts to point out that Logan has already awakened his aura, but Logan quickly silences him so no one hears. Looking him in the eyes, Logan promises that nothing is impossible and guarantees Victor will become a superhuman one day. Victor's eyes brighten with hope. Filled with determination, he strikes his chest in salute and vows that whether it is restoring the McLain family, defeating the Empire, or fulfilling any other wish, he will make it happen himself. Logan is deeply touched by his friend's loyalty. Looking away, he quietly says that both in the past and now, he is never fighting alone. Victor does not understand the hidden meaning behind those words, but Logan simply pats his shoulder. Logan admits he is also shaken by the Empire's overwhelming strength, but that thought quickly wakes him up. He mentally scolds himself because this is not the time to think about the past. He is standing in the Emperor's capital. Soon, Logan stands before the huge entrance to the palace's main hall. Blake asks if he is ready because his Imperial Majesty is waiting beyond the doors. He says his escort duty officially ends there. Logan thanks him, and Blake bows deeply, saying he has done his best to serve His Majesty and hopes they meet again as friends. Logan politely agrees before focusing on the giant gate. A loud voice announces the arrival of Grandia's guest. As the doors slowly open and Logan walks inside, his heart races. He knows the Emperor is waiting ahead. From the opposite end of the massive hall, Logan's eyes suddenly meet the Emperor's. He is shocked they can see each other from such a distance, but something even more frightening is happening. A suffocating pressure fills the room. The Emperor calls Logan forward, praising him as Grandia's hero. As Logan forces himself to walk, anxiety overwhelms him. He feels countless eyes watching him. Seeing Luther behind him, the nobles and guards whisper, wondering about the giant man, questioning if the ordinary-looking young man is really the one the Emperor chooses, and even asking where Grandia is. Logan's thoughts race as a strange force keeps pulling his eyes toward the Emperor. Then he realizes something even more terrifying. A crushing spiritual pressure fills the room. At first he believes it comes from the Emperor, but soon he discovers it comes from much closer. Looking at the knights beside him, his blood turns cold. Every one of them is a superhuman. After looking around, he estimates about 10 people are releasing overwhelming pressure, and at least half are as strong as Felix. Assyria alone has 7 magic towers, 8 East Corps and 7 West Corps. Counting only their leaders, the Empire possesses at least 32 superhumans. Looking at the Emperor, Logan can hardly believe the enormous gap between the two nations. Suddenly, the Emperor raises his hand and calls a certain man forward. The crushing pressure instantly forces Logan onto his knees as sweat pours down his face. The Emperor says he has heard much about Logan and asks if he truly killed a superhuman, adding that his reputation seems genuine. Logan wonders if this entire situation is only a cruel test. He humbly says he is simply lucky, but the Emperor smiles and says that luck can be tested immediately before calling for Jerome. Logan sees him and immediately wonders if this is the famous Jerome decade. The Emperor points at Jerome and orders him to fight Logan. He announces that it will be a match between the Empire's rising star and Grandia's hero because he wants to see who is truly superior. Jerome bows without hesitation and accepts the order. Logan cannot believe he is forced into a fight the moment he arrives without anyone asking for his permission. Then he realizes the truth. This is the real reason he is invited. He is only there for the Emperor's entertainment. Seeing the situation worsen, Luther quickly steps forward and protests, saying Lord Logan comes only as Grandia's representative and forcing him into such a duel completely breaks diplomatic customs. The Emperor ignores him and coldly says the invitation is for Logan McLain alone. He then turns to Luther, mockingly calling him the kingdom's superhuman and asking if he dares oppose an imperial order. The overwhelming pressure becomes unbearable. Luther immediately falls to his knees before he can answer. Seeing no escape, Logan speaks up and says that if His Majesty wishes it, he will obey. Standing proudly, he boldly adds that if any accidents happen during the duel, he trusts he will not be blamed. Jerome angrily calls Logan disrespectful, but the Emperor enjoys his boldness. Laughing loudly, he says he only wants to watch them test their abilities, and surely Logan does not mean to fight to the death. Logan calmly looks at the Emperor and asks if they are going to fight anyway. Would it not be far more entertaining for both sides to go all out? The Emperor laughs even harder, amused that Logan truly believes he can win, before turning to Jerome and asking if he feels the same. Jerome scoffs and proudly tells His Majesty that he will never lose to someone with talent from a small, unknown country. Logan looks into Jerome's eyes while his memories from the future race through his mind. He never expects to fight Jerome so soon. In the future, Jerome becomes a legend. He is known as the first sword of the continent, the strongest aura user alive, and an important ambassador of the Grandia Liberation Front. However, Logan reminds himself that this is the present. Jerome has not yet become that unstoppable monster. A few minutes later, they stand across from each other in the palace courtyard, ready to fight. Even the Empire's highest-ranking nobles are shocked that such a duel is taking place inside the Imperial Palace. One noble quietly says that no one could ever oppose His Majesty, and everyone clearly knows that nobody dares to object. Another noble laughs, saying that since Logan is only an ordinary knight, the fight should end quickly. Before the battle begins, Jerome tries to mock Logan. He says Logan may have been lucky enough to kill one superhuman, but believing he can do it again is a serious mistake. Logan ignores the insults, thanks Jerome for the advice, and asks if they can start. Jerome becomes angry and says Logan is seeking death before demanding to know if he is truly ready. One of His Majesty's vassals steps forward and asks whether both fighters are prepared. Logan immediately recognizes him as Triss Hansby, the current first sword of the continent. Logan realizes that most of the crushing pressure he feels earlier in the throne room comes from Triss. Although meeting the legend feels unreal, Jerome respectfully calls Triss his master and confirms he is ready. Logan also says he is ready. Looking toward the throne, Triss announces that because His Majesty is watching, both fighters must use all of their abilities. However, he adds one strict rule that artifacts are forbidden. Watching from the side, Luther understands that this rule exists to stop Logan from dying immediately. The nobles watch with complete confidence in the Empire. They whisper that Logan may be strong in his small country, but he is about to learn his place in the Empire. The moment they finish speaking, Logan and Jerome charge at each other at incredible speed. Jerome fills his sword with aura for a deadly strike, while Logan fills his own blade with force. Logan quickly judges the situation. He knows he cannot match Triss, but Jerome is still only a rising star. Logan easily blocks Jerome's powerful aura attack. The entire courtyard falls silent. Even His Majesty and Triss stare in amazement. Jerome cannot understand how Logan blocks the attack so effortlessly. Without wasting a moment, Logan changes his stance and prepares to attack. Luther realizes this is the turning point. Logan's knowledge from the future is giving him the advantage. He knows Jerome will become the unbeatable first sword 20 years later, but right now Jerome is still inexperienced. That weakness gives Logan control of the fight. Logan suddenly changes his sword's direction and attacks from an angle Jerome never expects. Their swords collide, and Jerome barely avoids Logan's next lightning-fast strike. Logan keeps attacking without slowing down and thrusts straight at Jerome's head. His speed allows him to cut Jerome's face and draw the first blood. Seeing his favorite student injured, Triss shouts Jerome's name and prepares to stop the duel. Jerome quickly tells his master to stop and begs His Majesty to let the fight continue because he is only wounded. One noble comments that calling it only a wound is an understatement because blood is pouring down Jerome's face. Jerome suddenly places his hand over the cut, and everyone sees his incredible healing ability. Within seconds, the wound disappears completely. Logan tightens his grip on his sword and wonders if Jerome is finally becoming serious because a superhuman is still a superhuman. Instead, Jerome apologizes for underestimating Logan. Logan is surprised by the sudden respect. Jerome admits that although Logan is not an aura user, he perfectly blocks an aura attack, and his twisting counterattack is unlike anything Jerome has ever seen. He humbly says Logan truly deserves the title of young hero. Then Jerome's expression becomes cold as he warns Logan to prepare for what comes next. Logan stares back with complete determination. He knows this is his greatest chance to defeat the future first sword of the continent. Before Jerome Decade becomes a legend, Logan already knows his future. His thoughts return to his previous life as a mercenary. During the war to conquer Grandia, Jerome wins a huge victory by cutting off Juan Douglas's head. After that, he becomes the top assassination target of the Grandia Liberation Front. Yet nobody dares to attack him because of his broken superhuman ability called absolute sight. With his incredible vision, he can predict attacks before they land and break through defenses before they are fully formed. Logan remembers that his former comrades try countless ways to kill Jerome, but his enormous superhuman energy makes every attempt fail. However, the Jerome standing here is still only a rookie. They clash again, and the force of their swords creates a huge cloud of dust across the courtyard. Logan jumps back and prepares his next move while remembering another important detail. Whenever Jerome uses absolute sight, a faint silver light appears in his eyes. Logan notices that silver glow now, but Jerome's control is still weak. Logan decides to test the limits of his defense. He fills his sword with energy and prepares a downward strike. Jerome recognizes the stance and confidently says he will not be fooled by that strange curved attack again, but Logan instantly changes his attack. He moves around Jerome like a blur and launches countless strikes. Jerome barely escapes each one by inches. Logan unleashes a deadly combination in which his main sword follows a direct path while his force blade curves freely in different directions. By doing this, he removes all the weaknesses of Fran's Moonlight Sword. Even so, Jerome proves he is far stronger than Fran. He blocks every attack Logan launches. His absolute sight is truly powerful. He even sees Logan coming from behind several seconds before the attack arrives. Jerome lowers himself and slides across the ground to dodge before immediately sweeping his sword toward Logan, who appears completely open. Logan outsmarts him by jumping high over the sweep and preparing another attack. It becomes obvious that Logan's superior technique gives him the advantage as their swords clash once more. Jerome struggles desperately to keep Logan's blade away from his chest. Finally, he gathers enough strength to push Logan's sword away, surprising Logan. Jerome immediately jumps back to regain his stance. He is furious because he cannot believe a Force user is pushing him back in front of His Majesty. Wanting to recover his pride, Jerome fills his sword with pure aura and rushes forward at tremendous speed. Logan is honestly surprised because he does not expect Jerome to still have so much strength left. Then he notices the bright silver light shining in Jerome's eyes. The rookie has begun focusing his power. Logan immediately realizes that Jerome is learning to master absolute sight during the battle itself. That means Logan cannot allow himself to lose ground. He has to defeat Jerome before he grows even stronger. Logan instantly activates Shadow Step, disappears, and appears behind Jerome. Jerome is horrified and wonders how Logan moves so fast. Logan remembers from his previous life that there are only 3 ways to defeat absolute sight: overwhelming numbers of attacks, overwhelming magic, or overwhelming speed. Logan chooses speed. He unleashes a relentless storm of attacks, moving like a ghost and leaving Jerome with no choice but to defend. Everyone watches in complete amazement. Even the Empire's current first sword cannot believe that their rising star is being forced backward by Logan's unbelievable speed. Luther watches from the side and gets excited, thinking Logan is fighting amazingly well and silently cheering for him to keep attacking. But after releasing a huge wave of attacks, Logan feels frustrated because Jerome somehow blocks every strike. Logan thinks Jerome is a real monster. Then he comes up with a desperate plan to break Jerome's defense. He forcefully stabs his sword into the ground and silently challenges Jerome to block this attack. Jerome becomes completely confused because he has no idea what Logan is trying to do. Suddenly, the ground shakes violently. Bright rays of light burst out from the place where Logan stabs the earth. Then a concentrated beam of light shoots up from beneath Jerome and heads straight toward his right eye. A huge explosion shakes the courtyard. When the smoke clears, everyone stands speechless because they cannot believe what has happened. Jerome's sword falls from his hand. A single strand of hair drops to the ground, followed by blood flowing from his face. The Empire's high-ranking officials realize the terrible truth and gasp. Jerome permanently loses his right eye. At the same time, Logan suddenly coughs up blood. Even after losing his eye, Jerome still manages to launch a deadly counterattack, proving why he deserves to become the future first sword of the continent. Despite his injuries, Logan smiles because he successfully achieves his true goal. Before he can celebrate, an angry voice roars behind him. Triss Hansby, the current first sword of the continent, angrily demands to know how Logan dares to permanently injure one of the Empire's greatest talents in front of the Emperor. Triss immediately jumps at Logan, grabs him by the neck, slams him into the ground, raises his sword, and declares that Logan must pay for his crime with his life. Seeing this, Luther completely loses control. He pulls out his giant hammer, rushes toward Triss, and angrily demands to know how he dares to do such a thing. Triss remains completely calm. He raises one finger, fills it with powerful aura, and with a simple flick sends Luther flying several meters away before Luther can even react. Luther crashes onto the ground and spits out blood. It becomes painfully obvious that the Empire's first sword is on an entirely different level from everyone else. Logan grips his sword tighter and decides that since he is likely going to die anyway, he will at least take one of these monsters down with him. Triss notices Logan's fighting stance and mocks his desperate determination to survive. He raises his sword and coldly tells Logan to die. Just before the killing blow lands, a powerful voice echoes through the hall, demanding to know what Triss thinks he is doing. The Emperor glares down from his throne, clearly annoyed. Triss instantly freezes, puts away his sword, and kneels in a deep bow. He desperately explains that Logan dares to permanently injure one of the Empire's greatest talents in front of the Emperor, so he believes Logan deserves death to protect the Empire's authority. The Emperor coldly reminds Triss that he personally orders the duel. He asks whether Triss is insulting the Emperor's own decision by calling the result unacceptable. Triss immediately panics, repeatedly bangs his forehead against the floor, and swears he only acts for the good of the Empire. This only angers the Emperor even more. He declares that he himself is the Empire and points out that Triss openly disobeys an Imperial order before claiming it is for the Emperor's benefit. Hearing those terrifying words, Triss starts trembling, smashes his forehead so hard that the floor cracks, begs for forgiveness, and admits he goes too far. Luther and Logan are both shocked. Logan thinks that since Triss quickly admits his mistake and is still the strongest aura user on the continent, he will probably receive only a light punishment. However, Logan is completely wrong. The Emperor removes all of Trist's authority over the Imperial Knights and takes away his privilege and title as the First Sword. Even more surprising, Trist lifts his bleeding head and sincerely thanks the Emperor for his mercy and light punishment. Logan is left speechless after witnessing the Emperor's overwhelming authority, which makes even a superhuman gladly surrender everything he earns in life. The Emperor then dismisses the duel, saying Jerome's injuries are unfortunate but are a normal possibility in a real battle between martial artists, so no one will be blamed. He turns to Logan, praises his unbelievable performance, officially declares him the winner, and promises him a great reward. The nobles around them all sigh in relief. The Emperor stretches out his hand toward Logan, calls him the hero of Grandia, and offers him wealth, authority, and glory beyond imagination if he pledges loyalty to the Empire. Logan freezes because accepting would guarantee his family's safety and prevent the Empire from becoming his enemy. It is the easiest choice possible. Then he remembers his previous life as a mercenary, standing beside Captain Lewis on a bloody battlefield. He remembers that he never fights for ideals or loyalty to his kingdom. He fights only because of his burning rage, and he dies with that rage. Now that he lives again, he refuses to forget it. Logan steps forward, kneels before the throne, looks directly into the Emperor's eyes, and calmly says that he cannot serve a foreign ruler. The entire hall falls silent. The nobles are speechless, and even Luther panics because nobody has ever refused the Emperor before. The Emperor is surprised for a brief moment before bursting into laughter. He admits that nobody has dared reject him for a very long time and says this only makes him want Logan even more. He stands up, says Logan shows him something truly amazing today, and orders Logan to remain at the palace for a while so he can experience the Empire himself, confident Logan will eventually change his mind. Logan simply holds his sword and respectfully thanks the Emperor for his kindness. Later, Logan rests in a luxurious guest room provided by the Emperor. A man enters, introduces himself as Bishop Plantis, a high-ranking servant of Asura, the god of gold and commerce, and respectfully says it is an honor to meet Logan. Logan politely apologizes for troubling him because his injuries are not serious, but the bishop smiles, calls Logan brother, and says the Emperor more than rewards him for his time. Logan is shocked inside because the Emperor sends not an ordinary healer but a real bishop of the 9 gods just to treat his minor injuries. As the bishop approaches to examine him, Logan ignores his own wounds and immediately asks about Sir Jerome. The bishop sighs and says Jerome heals unusually well, but unfortunately his right eye cannot be saved. Logan secretly feels great relief because his plan succeeds perfectly. The bishop warns him that aura wounds can have delayed effects and says they must treat him immediately. He raises his hands over Logan, chants a prayer to the 9 gods, and uses divine power to heal him. The healing is completely different from the holy magic Logan sees during Stella's naming ceremony, and the results are incredible. Logan has never seen internal injuries heal so quickly. The bishop is surprised because he has never seen aura disappear from someone's body so cleanly and praises Logan's amazing physical strength. Logan smiles and thanks him, secretly knowing his hidden force core pushes the remaining aura out. Just as the treatment ends, the bishop casually asks whether Logan is really from Grandia. After Logan confirms it, the bishop says he has recently heard a strange rumor from the Grandia parish about children being born completely immune to divine power. He looks directly at Logan and asks whether he knows anything about it. Logan's blood turns cold because he immediately realizes the bishop is probably investigating Stella's secret, and he does not like where the conversation is going. His mind returns to Stella's naming ceremony, when Bishop Crimson is supposed to bless her, but Stella somehow completely repels the bishop's divine power. Soon afterward, Philip receives an official invitation to bring Stella into the church. Logan becomes extremely nervous because he believes only Bishop Crimson and himself, thanks to his rare ability to see divine power, should have noticed what happens, yet the secret clearly leaks. Staying calm, Logan carefully asks whether this strange phenomenon is a serious problem. The bishop explains that it is not exactly dangerous, and although rare, it is not completely unheard of. However, there is one huge problem. A phenomenon like this usually happens only once or twice on the entire continent in a century. Yet now, it suddenly starts happening one after another in Grandia. Seeing Logan's calm and clueless expression, the bishop believes Logan truly knows nothing about it. Logan politely apologizes for being unable to help. The bishop simply smiles and says it may only be a false rumor anyway. But Logan does not believe him at all. He knows how powerful religious leaders think. If it were only a rumor, the bishop would never question him about it. A week passes after Logan's meeting with the Emperor. To avoid the Emperor's attention, Logan stays inside his room. As expected, the Emperor never comes himself, but something even stranger happens. While Logan trains with Victor, a servant announces a visitor. The eldest son of the Hubert family arrives with an expensive gift. He is only the first. Soon, the Viscount working in the Assyrian tax office arrives with another costly present. Then another Viscount from the treasury comes with his own gift, followed by many more nobles. Watching the endless line, Victor asks if they should do something. Logan only sighs and wonders what this nonsense means. Later, Luther stares at the huge pile of gifts and asks if they all come from those visitors. Logan confirms they do. The gifts include low-grade artifacts and priceless elixirs. Even for the rich empire, nobles do not normally give away treasures so freely. Then Logan realizes the Emperor is behind everything. It matches the Emperor's earlier words that Logan would change his mind after seeing what the Empire offers. Knowing the Emperor is trying to buy him over, Logan thinks about leaving. Since the Emperor personally invites him, he believes the Empire may not attack his kingdom just because he leaves early. But he quickly realizes that hope is too naive. His official entry into Assyria is scheduled for the Spring Festival, so he cannot leave before then. Although frustrated, he decides to wait. Just then, someone knocks and asks if Sir Logan is inside. Luther checks and finds the palace steward. Logan first assumes another noble has come with a gift, but the steward instead gives him an official invitation. Logan asks who sends it, and his heart sinks when he sees the Imperial seal. It is a direct invitation from the Emperor. That night, a grand party fills the palace with music, drinking, and celebration. Logan stays near the edge until a beautiful noblewoman notices his red hair and eyes. She approaches, asks if he is the famous man from the rumors, and Logan politely introduces himself. She flirts by saying the rumors are wrong because he looks far more manly than expected. She jokingly asks if every man in Grandia looks like him, and Logan laughs. Suddenly, two arrogant nobles call him a punk and ask if he is the Emperor's special guest. They openly mock him, saying someone from a tiny country does not deserve such honor. Logan quietly watches, wondering what is about to happen. Right then, two heavily armed Imperial guards enter and stand beside the main entrance. They announce the arrival of His Imperial Majesty. Everyone immediately kneels except Logan, who only bows. After seeing everyone else kneeling, Logan also drops to one knee. As the Emperor walks through the hall, he stops before Logan and asks if Grandia's rising star, Logan McLain, enjoys the party. Logan is caught completely by surprise while everyone watches closely. To everyone's shock, the Emperor invites Logan to sit beside him at the head table. While personally pouring him wine, the Emperor says he hears Logan has hidden in his room since the duel, so he decides to bring him out himself. He says a man must see the wider world to broaden his mind and asks if Logan agrees. The nobles cannot believe a foreign youth receives such treatment. One noblewoman quietly wonders why a foreigner deserves such honor. Logan thanks the Emperor for his kindness but replies that a bird inside a cage cannot truly experience the world. He says the golden cage would only suffocate him. The Emperor smiles and says the Empire's attention must feel overwhelming, but Logan needs a broader view. Then he asks whether Logan's own kingdom is actually the chain holding him back. Logan has no answer. The Emperor suddenly complains that his wine glass is too small and orders the steward to bring larger ones. The steward brings two huge bowls. As the Emperor pours bottle after bottle of costly wine into them, Logan realizes he does not plan to drink casually. Logan finally asks why the Emperor goes so far for someone like him when the Empire already has countless talented people. The Emperor admits that is true for now, but even Triss, the continent's first sword, never shows as much talent at Logan's age. He declares Logan has the potential to surpass the first sword. Because of that, he announces before everyone that Logan is worth more to him than the entire kingdom of Grandia. The hall gasps in disbelief. They cannot believe the Emperor values one man above a whole nation. They whisper that this is the greatest praise possible, no matter how small Grandia is. Looking directly at Logan, the Emperor tells him to think carefully about wasting such talent in a weak country. Logan wonders if the Emperor truly believes his own words or has gone mad. After filling both bowls, the Emperor explains the wine purifies a knight's force and acts as powerful medicine. It is a rare imperial luxury, and the palace makes only 100 bottles each year. He offers Logan as much as he wants and tells him to drink freely. Logan thanks him while the nobles whisper about the Emperor's unbelievable generosity. Logan lifts the heavy bowl and drinks it all. As he does, he finally understands how dangerously obsessed the Emperor is. A man like this will never give up conquering the world. Logan realizes that if he becomes an Imperial citizen now, the Emperor will immediately force him to prove his loyalty by leading the invasion of Grandia. After emptying the bowl, Logan slams it onto the table, looks the Emperor in the eyes, and firmly refuses the offer. He says his kingdom and its history mean everything to him and respectfully asks the Emperor to withdraw the offer forever. The Emperor says nothing. The hall fills with shocked whispers as the nobles cannot believe Logan rejects the Emperor to his face. They quietly call him a dead man walking. Suddenly, a powerful noble steps forward and says he wishes to raise one matter. The Emperor asks Duke Travis what he wants. Duke Travis smiles and says he recently hears an interesting story about Grandia that he wishes to share. Logan instantly feels uneasy and stares at the old man, desperately wondering what he is about to reveal. Since it concerns Grandia, the Emperor orders the Duke to continue. Duke Travis announces there is a confirmed story from the time Sir Logan suppresses Grandia's civil war. Logan's blood turns cold as he realizes exactly what the old man is about to expose. Duke Travis looks straight at Logan and reveals the dark secret to the Emperor. Logan successfully creates a devastating special weapon that has never existed in the world before. He curses the Duke in his mind after realizing that his greatest advantage has been exposed. When the Emperor hears about the mysterious weapon, his amused expression disappears, and he becomes completely serious. He turns to Duke Travis and demands to know what kind of weapon he is talking about. Logan panics and curses his bad luck. He never expects Duke Travis to mention the weapon here. If the Emperor learns about the repeating crossbow and liberatio in this room, everything is ruined. Even worse, Logan wonders if the Empire is already developing its own repeating crossbow. Whatever the truth is, returning home will not be easy. However, the Emperor clearly dislikes Duke Travis's interruption. He scoffs, says the Duke has ruined his wine, and asks in surprise how he dares to talk about trade while guests are present. Terrified, Duke Travis breaks into a cold sweat and nervously explains that he makes a careless mistake because his strong beliefs blind him. The Emperor calmly replies that he understands the Duke's patriotism and forgives this disrespect only once because of it. With a wave of his hand, he orders Travis to leave and not show himself again for the rest of the day. Trembling with fear, the Duke gratefully thanks the Emperor and quickly runs out of the room. The Emperor then turns back to Logan, dismisses the incident as unimportant, and tells him to simply enjoy himself. He encourages Logan to experience the Empire fully and later share his honest opinion. With a faint smile, the Emperor also reminds Logan to remember his earlier words because his original offer still stands. Meanwhile, Logan stays in his quarters, practicing with his sword to calm his nerve. He reminds himself that the Emperor never forces him to take back his refusal, and since the Emperor seems confident, Logan believes he probably will not chase him if he leaves after the festival. That removes one problem, but another remains. His force core vibrates violently after seeing so many superhumans, making him want to awaken immediately. However, he knows he cannot do it while the Emperor watches him closely. If he awakens now, the Emperor will use it as proof that the Empire is where he belongs and will never let him leave, destroying his hope of returning home. Logan calms his force core and takes a deep breath. He decides the delay may actually help him. If Sir Luther is right that awakening cannot happen just by wishing for it, then no one accidentally becomes a superhuman so easily. He believes this extra time will allow him to prepare for a future revolution and convinces himself that he is not falling behind. Suddenly, his chamber door opens and Victor calls for him. Victor says he has a visitor. Logan tells him to ignore the guest, but Victor refuses because he is trembling with fear and insists he cannot ignore this person. Realizing something is wrong, Logan walks into the room and finds the continent's strongest swordsman, Triss Hansby, waiting in a chair. Just seeing him sends a chill through Logan's body. As Triss stands, Logan asks if he has come for revenge. Triss calmly asks what he means. Logan and his knights prepare to draw their swords, but Triss asks if Logan really thinks he would still hold a grudge after His Majesty has already forgiven him. Logan does not know what to think but keeps his knights ready. He asks why Triss has come, and Triss explains that the Emperor is worried because Logan has not left the estate since the party. Therefore, His Majesty orders Triss to personally show Logan the wider world. Logan understands that he cannot refuse. Triss' overwhelming aura fills the room. Logan says it feels like fire, and Triss explains that it is simply the materialization of spirit. Logan is shocked because it is his first time seeing spirit take such a clear form. Triss warns him to keep his mind completely focused because losing concentration could destroy his soul. Logan struggles against the spirit and feels as if real flames are burning him alive. Thinking he will burn to death, he uses his force core to create an aura barrier, and it successfully pushes the flames back. Although it is extremely difficult, he manages to endure. However, the flames return, making Logan think his force core alone is not enough. Then he realizes his clothes are untouched, meaning only his soul is being damaged. Looking at Triss, Logan decides there is only one answer against such overwhelming power. He uses the secret ability that repels aura and cannot be healed even by divine power, allowing him to drive away all the flames at once. Triss is stunned. Logan rises from his knees, and Triss asks what happened. Logan only smiles. Triss points a finger at him and slashes downward. Logan does not understand what happens until he realizes his body has been cut apart. He wonders if this is how he dies and thinks the situation is completely absurd. Refusing to accept death, he gathers all his aura and rebuilds his body. Everyone watching is left speechless. Victor and the soldiers rush over to check on him, but none of them even realize what has happened. Triss then explains that the attack is the Soul Blade, a sword technique that cuts the soul and can only be learned by aura users nearing the highest level. He tells Logan that if he wants to learn it, he must stay in the Empire. Logan curses Triss in his mind, realizing Triss dislikes him because he has overcome every technique shown to him. Triss concludes that Logan is far beyond ordinary talent and believes that if he cannot be controlled, he must be killed. A few days later, Triss and Jerome drink tea together. Jerome asks whether the matter from several days earlier has been settled and notices that his master looks unhappy. Triss sadly explains that Logan withstands the materialization of spirit without even being an aura user. Jerome is shocked and says that reaching such a level is necessary to become a worthy opponent. Triss admires Jerome's straightforward heart but still believes Logan cannot be controlled and would be safer dead. At the same time, he wants to witness the future created by such incredible talent. Lowering his head with a sigh, he wonders what he should do. 3 weeks after the party, Logan kneels before the Emperor in the royal study. The Emperor asks whether Logan has received his gift. Logan becomes annoyed, thinking that the experience can hardly be called a gift, but politely replies that it helps him greatly. The Emperor says that TZ praises Logan's impressive performance and asks whether Logan has changed his mind about joining the Empire. After a brief silence, Logan apologizes and explains that he has come to announce his decision to return home. The Emperor is surprised, and everyone in the room becomes tense. Drawing a knife, the Emperor asks whether Logan knows that he has never abandoned anything he wants. Logan stands and replies that, if that is true, then the only way the Emperor will keep him is through his death. The Emperor points the knife at him and asks whether he is truly willing to die for that young king, adding that the king does not seem worthy of such loyalty. Logan admits to himself that the Emperor is not wrong, but he explains that what he truly wants is freedom. The Emperor asks if that is really the truth. Logan smiles and respectfully answers that his own king cannot force him to do anything, but the Emperor certainly can, so he cannot remain in the Empire. The Emperor cannot believe the answer. He bursts into laughter and asks whether Logan really wants to return simply because he is free to ignore his own king. Logan confirms that he does. The Emperor asks whether Logan has completely lost his mind, while the guards cannot understand what is happening. Still laughing, the Emperor admits that Logan is even more interesting than he expected, while Logan cannot understand the laughter. Finally, the Emperor declares that he will allow Logan to leave. Logan cannot believe his plan works because it is so simple. However, the Emperor suddenly stabs his knife into the wooden table and tells Logan that he cannot leave until he grants one more wish. Several days later, Logan and 2 knights travel across a field while horse-drawn wagons carry many gifts for him. Looking back, they wonder what the Emperor is really thinking. Logan still cannot believe how many gifts he receives because he already tells the Emperor that they are far too much. Even so, the Emperor insists that Logan accepts them because he cannot let others think he is ungenerous to his guests. He also hints that he has another purpose. A servant then brings Logan a special crate containing a piece of armor called the Divine Pauldron. The Emperor explains that it is an artifact meant for Logan because he will soon become a superhuman. He also tells Logan to carefully think about what it means for an emperor to personally grant him a weapon. Looking at the artifact, Logan realizes everyone in his homeland, especially the king waiting at his camp, will believe he and the emperor are now on friendly terms. As he studies the pauldron, he feels it is strangely familiar. Together with the wind god boots and the Herculean gauntlets, it seems to perfectly complete a set. After putting it on, Logan immediately understands its power. The artifact absorbs force, creates a magic shield, and reveals a hidden ability. He realizes it is actually a 4th-class magic artifact. Ignoring Byrost and Kronit for now, he cannot believe the Emperor never discovers this ability and wonders why only he can activate it. Still, he sets that question aside because something more important awaits. He calls Sir Luther, confirms they have already left the Imperial capital, shows him his force core, and happily announces that it is finally time for his awakening. Meanwhile, back in the capital, the Emperor walks through the castle gardens when a shadow appears behind him and asks if giving Logan so much is really necessary. The shadow argues that even if the artifact is considered useless, treating a foreign knight so generously is excessive. The Emperor disagrees and says Logan dares to challenge him inside the Imperial palace itself. If he wants to win over someone with such a strong will, he must invest this much. The shadow warns that Logan still rejects his offer and may become the Empire's enemy someday. The Emperor calmly replies that if that day comes, he will simply crush him. After a short silence, the shadow reports that the second Imperial prince, Barrows, plans to act in Grandia. Knowing the prince's personality, the shadow fears he will likely clash with Logan. The Emperor decides to wait and watch because talented young people naturally grow by fighting each other, and he thinks it will be entertaining. 2 months earlier, after leaving the Mlan territory, Luther asks Logan if he knows about superhuman traits. Logan replies that they are special powers warriors gain during awakening. Luther says that is mostly correct and explains that Logan may be able to influence his awakening. He advises him to try to obtain a superhuman trait if possible. Surprised, Logan asks if someone can really choose such a trait. Luther explains that it is possible, although very rare. Normally, awakening only strengthens a warrior's force, body, and senses. Logan thinks that kind of balanced growth already sounds excellent. Luther explains that while those basic abilities can always improve through training, a superhuman trait is a unique power that can only be gained during awakening. Logan understands its value but points out that no one knows what trait they will receive. Luther agrees but says it still depends on the person. He explains that he always dreams of having the overwhelming strength of the mythical giants, and that dream shapes all his training. When he awakens, his body grows larger, grants him the strength of giants, and even makes him about 50 centimeters taller. Logan quietly thinks Luther must already have been at least 250 centimeters tall before that. Luther explains that a person's deepest desires and the life they have lived shape their superhuman trait. He asks Logan what his own desires, goals, and life will eventually become. Back in the present, Logan remembers those words while concentrating. He recalls that the natural magic of his treasured sword, Lux, is time acceleration. At first, he believes his trait may be related to speed, but he quickly rejects that idea. Speed alone cannot defeat the terrifying enemies waiting for him. He needs the power to overcome everything and break all his limits, so he decides to turn that very idea into his superhuman trait. A blinding aura suddenly surrounds him, becoming so bright that a soldier covers his eyes and complains about the light. Victor asks Luther if they should really keep watching, but Luther orders everyone to stay silent because Logan is awakening. Inside his mind, Logan commands the power of his 4 force cores to spread through his body. He forces that familiar energy to evolve into something new. As he reaches deeper into his power, a new fragment appears before him. He celebrates because he successfully creates a 5th force core, but he knows it is only the beginning. The power flowing from this new core is about to transform him down to his very soul. Outside, his energy shines brighter than ever. Back at Logan's camp, everyone watches his awakening without taking their eyes off him. A knight asks Luther whether awakenings usually last this long. Luther answers that they normally finish instantly. The knight becomes worried, but Luther explains that his own awakening also takes a long time, so they simply need to wait. He believes Logan is experiencing an extraordinary transformation. The next day, the exhausted soldiers wake up after sleeping on the field. Luther approaches Logan and asks whether he succeeds. Logan silently walks toward everyone before raising his aura-covered hand and says he will immediately show the power he gains. Luther tells him to attack. Looking at Logan, Luther thinks he does not appear much different and wonders if he only experiences an ordinary awakening. To find out, Luther instantly charges with his giant hammer, intending to smash Logan into the ground. Logan simply smiles without moving. A huge explosion follows, hiding everything in dust. Victor panics because he cannot see anything and fears Logan is crushed. When the dust clears, everyone realizes the broken armor belongs to Luther instead. Luther admits everything happens within a split second. Logan redirects the giant hammer with a slight twist of his sword, steps back, and immediately launches an incredibly fast counterattack. Luther admits that if the fight is real, that strike would remove his head. He asks whether Logan awakens a speed-type trait, but Logan says he has not even revealed his trait yet. Luther is shocked because Logan's speed and strength are only the basic physical improvements from awakening. Logan then grips his sword with both hands and tells Luther to prepare seriously. A massive amount of aura erupts from Logan's body. Luther can hardly believe it. He gathers all his mana, tightens his grip on his hammer, and tells Logan to show his true power. Logan realizes he can now clearly see every weakness in Luther's body. His strength and senses more than double, and even his view of the world completely changes. This is not normal growth but a complete elevation of his soul. Even if only for a short time, he can perfectly reach a higher level. Thanking Luther, Logan attacks instantly. His sword flashes forward and cuts straight through Luther's defensive aura. Luther is speechless because his powerful aura is sliced apart by someone who only awakens moments earlier. He admits Logan truly gains an unbelievable trait. When the dust settles, Logan remains standing with his sword while Luther lies on the ground beside his giant hammer. The battle is far from easy, and Logan breathes heavily afterward. He realizes his guess is correct. His trait allows him to reach a much higher level for 5 full minutes. He knows his growth will naturally slow as he becomes stronger and every wall he breaks will be followed by an even greater one. However, if he can temporarily overcome those limits, everything changes. Watching from a distance, the knights wonder if the fight is finally over and whether it is safe to approach. Logan catches his breath and realizes he gains an almost impossible trait. Victor nervously asks whether Logan truly becomes a superhuman. Smiling brightly, Logan confirms that he is now officially an aura user. Victor and the other knights explode with joy, cheering and celebrating because their master becomes their first superhuman. Logan enjoys their excitement but quickly tells everyone to keep it secret for now. Victor agrees without hesitation. Logan notices his knights no longer question his reasons for secrecy and wonders if he accidentally teaches them that habit. Just then, Luther stands up and says Logan allows him to witness something incredible. Holding his giant hammer, Luther sincerely asks to follow Logan. Shocked, Logan asks whether he is joking, but Luther says he is completely serious. He explains that he already receives permission from his master, Felix, the Sword Duke. He promises Felix that if he finds true potential in Logan, he will join him to help lead the kingdom toward a better future. Logan is left speechless because the last person claiming to care so much about the kingdom eventually starts a civil war. Annoyed by the comparison, Luther says he might also act that way if an unbeatable old monster constantly threatens him. However, he believes Logan would choose differently. He points out that Logan never loses his courage even while surrounded by the Empire's superhumans and facing the Emperor's unbelievable offer. Luther also knows Logan already has problems with the new king, but Logan's actions inside the Empire prove what an extraordinary young man he is. Hearing such praise surprises Logan because he only wants revenge against the Empire, yet everyone treats him like a noble hero. Still, he gladly accepts that gaining a powerful ally like Sir Luther is a huge victory. Logan does not think too much and officially welcomes Sir Luther into House Mlan. A few days later, he arrives back in Lutzelheim, where Mayor Dmitri is already waiting for him. The mayor says it is an honor to welcome Logan again. He explains that a messenger brings news that His Majesty greatly favors Logan, and he says he knows Logan is special from the first time he sees him. Logan thinks Dmitri has not changed at all. He also believes this man will not be the only one to treat him this way, so he simply thanks him. Logan then thinks about how everyone now calls him the young hero who has the Emperor's support. People keep asking him to stay at their estates, and many nobles even offer their daughters in marriage. Every city he visits is filled with nobles hoping to gain even a small benefit from knowing him. They constantly give him attention he never wants, forcing him to spend 3 or 4 days in every city. Because of this, it takes him a month and a half to reach Lutzelheim. While walking through the estate, the mayor tells Logan that someone wants to meet him. The visitor happens to be passing through the east, and he is none other than the second prince. Logan is surprised. He thinks it is unfortunate that he has never met the prince before, especially the second prince, so he says he is willing to meet him. The mayor tells him the prince is already waiting in his room and says it is best to meet him immediately. Logan feels slightly annoyed but follows him anyway. The mayor opens the door, wishes Logan an enjoyable meal with the prince, and leaves. Logan enters and sees the prince notice his red hair and red eyes. The prince says Logan matches everything he has heard about him. He rises from his desk, introduces himself as Baros von Eris, says it is a pleasure to meet Logan, and smiles. Logan dislikes that smile but politely says it is an honor to meet His Highness. The prince asks why Logan speaks so formally. He explains that Logan is neither a subject of the Empire nor of the prince. Since Logan is only a guest who has earned the Emperor's recognition, the prince cannot treat him carelessly. Turning toward the 3 guards behind him, he silently signals them, and they immediately say they will obey his wishes. Logan notices they are 3 top-class knights and wonders whether the Empire has many such warriors or whether the second prince is simply that important. Logan sits down and asks why the prince wants to meet him. The prince replies that the whole Empire is interested in Logan, although his own interest is different. He says he only wants to meet the hero of Grandia's civil war. Logan thinks that is reasonable because he also wants to meet the prince, although for very different reasons. In his mind, he remembers Barrows as a mad murderer. In his previous life, Barrows wins the succession war and becomes emperor. He performs secret magical experiments on countless people, mostly powerless citizens from conquered lands like Grandia. The true purpose of those experiments remains unknown until his death, but it is certain that he kills over 10,000 people. If the current emperor is a ruthless conqueror, Barrows is a demon who turns conquered lands into hell. Even so, people inside the empire consider him a kind ruler. The prince invites Logan to eat, saying the food at Dimitri's estate is excellent, and Logan gladly accepts because the table is filled with delicious dishes, including large lobsters. While they eat, the prince says he has never heard of Logan's military achievements before and praises him for winning despite terrible odds. Logan says the prince flatters him and tries to reply, but the prince interrupts, saying Logan does not seem like someone who would oppose the king. Logan stops eating and asks what he means. The prince explains that he hears rumors in the kingdom claiming Logan will eventually clash with the king, though perhaps they are false. Logan wonders why a prince cares about such rumors and says he has no reason to oppose the king. The prince says the rumors must simply be rumors and apologizes for his curiosity. To make up for it, he says he has prepared a gift. Logan says it is unnecessary, but the prince insists. A knight places a chest on the table. Inside is a communication crystal that allows Logan to contact the prince directly one time. The prince says Logan should use it whenever he needs help. Logan accepts the crystal with thanks but wonders why the prince secretly offers him such support. Although he does not know the prince's true plan, he decides he must never need to use it. However, Victor suddenly informs him that a serious incident has happened in the kingdom. Logan is left unsure what to do because the gift he has just received may already become necessary.